Evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our June 12th, 2019 Planning Board meeting. Barbara, will you please take the roll?
Chairman Curry.
Here.
Ms. Gannon. Mr. McNamara.
Here.
Mr. Vino.
Here.
Mr. Goldenberg. Mr. Prince.
Here.
And Mr. Zaberto.
Here.
Thank you. First on our agenda is minutes from March 13th, 2019. Anyone have any additions, corrections, comments?
A small book.
Yeah.
They all are.
And thank you.
Yeah, this is several trees here. Make a motion to accept the minutes as presented from March 13th, representing March 13th, 2019.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to table the public hearing for a minute and go over the two time extensions, just so that anyone's here for the time extensions, they can leave. First one is for the Gary and Ann Mitchell 4-lot conditional final conservation sub re-grant. This is their fourth 90-day time extension, and it's a 4-lot conservation subdivision. Did you want to just mention what's going on at the town board, if you don't mind? Please, Tim.
We are before the town board tomorrow night for the, this thing working? I think it is. For the, can you hear me? The acceptance of the conservation easement that was actually overlooked at the level, the town board, so they're looking at that tomorrow night, and I'm told it'll be approved. So we're looking, that's the last hurdle of filing this plat.
Well, how does that relate to this?
And Saret can, Saret, it's your understanding also from Supervisor Morrissey that that's basically going to be done tomorrow night.
I mean, you're continuing to just do extensions here. Tim is just giving you information related to,
In other words, it doesn't impact our desire
No,
to
it
renew
does
the
not.
tank, that's all.
It's just
Yeah,
kind of,
nothing changes on the plan.
no.
That's good.
Yep.
Any other board member comments? Okay, then make a motion that we grant the permit from June 18th, 2019, up to and including September 15th, 2019, in accordance with the town laws, section 276-7C and section 150-13M of the Code of the Town of Somas, and that's their fourth 90-day time extension.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And the second time extension is for Tamarack and Vine. It's for a final subdivision re-grant. This is their fifth 90-day time extension. Yes, Jody.
Good evening.
Evening.
Jody Cross, Zarin and Steinmetz. We're now in the final stretch. All the fees have been paid. The bonds have been posted. We're just getting the Mylar together to bring it in to get signed. Just looking for a buffer to make sure we have all the time we need to get that together, have it signed. So we're just asking for this last extension.
Did you have a question?
Right, I have a question, and my question is an intellectual question, and it's not intended to in any way interfere with your plans
Sure.
and this renewal, and it's based on the fact, Joe, my question is for you.
Okay.
The town has expanded the sewer district for Lincolndale, and it includes Tamarack and Vine. And if this never gets built, and we end up with a working sewer district, that could be a viable thought for this
Correct.
approved subdivision. They could come back and ask to access that sewer district.
Yeah, so there's a couple things in there. Number one is, we haven't voted to approve the sewer district, but we're definitely moving in that direction. We're going to ultimately build out in phases. But yeah, once the pipe is in front of their property, if they choose to come back in and make some modifications and want to use that instead of building septics, frankly, that would be our preference. in the future, so.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
It's not that important, it's just my curiosity when I saw the sewer district map.
I'll certainly pass that on to my client.
Any other comments? Okay, then I'll make a motion that we grant, a re-grant for time extensions from June 8th, 2019, up to and including September 5th, 2019, in accordance with the town law, Section 276-7C and Section 150-13M, the Code of the Town of Somers. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now back to our Heritage Hills Society culvert work. It's an application for a wetland and watercourse protection permit for the repair of an open bottom arch culvert and slope stabilization. The property is located on the northwest side of the intersection of Heritage Hills Drive and the West Hill Road, and it's in a DRD zoning district. Evening.
So, good evening. We're here for a public hearing. We covered the announcement?
Right.
The notice?
Oh, thank you. Barbara, was a notice posted, please?
The notice was published in the Somers Record on May 30th, and the notices were mailed out on the same day.
Thank you.
Okay, so we initially presented
Same day.
this project to the board last month. Good evening, my name is Rich Williams. I'm with Insight Engineering. We're the site civil engineers. This project is part of ongoing maintenance that is always ongoing at Heritage Hills. They have a very active maintenance program where they keep their infrastructure up in their roadway networks and drainage and collection systems. As part of that program, they identified part of a road culvert where they had some rotten pieces of pipe. Where we're talking about is at the intersection of Heritage Hills Drive, which runs north to south, and West Hill Drive. This is just south of the main recreation facility for Heritage Hills. And what you have, do you need me to rotate this at all, or?
Go ahead.
You're good? You're okay?
Yeah.
Okay. What you have is upstream of the road crossing, which sits in a fill section, you have a pond that overflows over a concrete weir, comes down through a stream, and is conveyed under the road with a corrugated metal pipe arch culvert that sits on concrete footings. On the northern side of West Hill Drive, there are curb cuts which let the stormwater, instead of going into a traditional catch basin system, the stormwater passes through the curb cuts, down a steep slope, and enters the stream right at the inlet to the culvert. Over the years, this has caused ongoing erosion and has actually led to the inlet section of the culvert rusting out and corroding. This was identified as something that should get repaired before it becomes a larger problem. When we got called in, we actually brought in Contec, who is the original manufacturer of the arch culvert system, to have their structural experts come out and make recommendations. And what they recommended we do is replace 9 panels within the culvert section. So the way these culverts are fabricated is they're made of corrugated metal arches or sheets that then bolt together in a staggered fashion to form a long arch. And the first 9 panels need to get replaced. So what we're going to do is we're going to install a sandbag cofferdam at the concrete weir upstream of the work area. We're going to put a pipe in, just basically lay it on the weir and pass it through the arch culvert so that we can stop the stream flow through our site. We're not going to be working actively in the stream with any machines. We talked about that last month. We just need to stop the flow of water so we can get people in there to unbolt the existing panels and bolt the new ones in. So we'll site an excavator above the culvert. That'll allow us to remove the soil on either side of the culvert. We have to be careful when we do that. We have to remove it in a balanced fashion. You don't want to pull all the soil away from one side and not the other, because then the whole culvert system can rack. So we'll be taking care of that, exposing the 9 panels, unbolting them, rebolting them, and then we're going to start our backfill and restoration operation. Now, instead of just restoring things to the way they were so that things can erode again, we're going to put a diversion swale along the curb line that brings the water away from the inlet of the culvert and discharges it further uphill into the stream after we create a small stilling basin. This swale is going to provide some filtering of runoff as well as the stilling basin that doesn't currently exist today. Right now, the water comes straight into the stream and is actually eroding the soil, which is a problem. So we feel there'll be a little bit of a benefit from that. In addition, we are going to better armor the side slopes with riprap to prevent further erosion. So water doesn't like to turn, it likes to flow in a straight line. Unfortunately, the angle at which the water leaves the pond is not in a straight line with the culvert. You have a dog leg. So we're going to reinforce the sides with riprap as part of this work to prevent the embankments from eroding out in the future. We've received the latest memo from Woodard and Curran. We believe the comments that are left are very technical in nature and that we can address. We don't think they'll result in a major change or substantial changes to the plan. Our goal tonight is, if everything goes well with the public hearing, to ask you to close the public hearing, and hopefully we would then ask for the resolution to be authorized for chairman's signature so that we don't have to come back for another meeting.
Do you want to make any comments?
So, we issued a memorandum for the last meeting. They addressed the vast majority of those comments. There's a couple of lingering items that we just need to close the loop on, and we added to our memorandum, and as I mentioned at the meeting last time, some more detailed comments about the bypass, just to make sure that we're fully understanding. We've listed those in the memorandum. I went through them briefly with Rich. You know, really what we want to make sure is that, because you all know how this goes, once we open this up and we're going to get the storm we don't want to get, right? So I just want to make sure that we understand things like the 24-inch pipe, what kind of conveyance, what kind of flows can that convey compared to what kind of storm events, or maybe there's operational procedures that we might be able to implement in order to, like Rich was suggesting, maybe just abandoning work and letting the water flow if a storm is coming. We have to work through those kind of details. To me, it's about making sure, number one, that the 24, we understand how much of the base flow. That 24-inch pipe's got to handle the base flow in that, and coming through that stream, plus some additional storm water, which Rich and I are going to work through. But we've put some design storm levels in the memo around the 100-year mark. Rich is pushing back a little bit on, hey, we're only going to have this thing open for 2 weeks. Do we really need the 100-year storm? I think it's worthy of a conversation and a consideration as to you know, what kind of storm events might we expect during that time period. We might not need to go all the way to the 100-year storm is my point. I just want to understand, make sure that the 24-inch pipe is enough to carry the base flow, plus a storm event that we think is appropriate. And we're going to take a look at a couple different analyses around that. The other thing that I want to make sure of is, you know, right now that pipe kind of flows. I want to make sure we anchor that pipe just to make sure that just in case we do get water flow, that it doesn't wash away, right? So I want to anchor that pipe to make sure that that pipe is stable and staying there. I also have some comments on the details of the cofferdam about maybe how to tie in some of the, make sure we don't get any erosion underneath it, make sure we key in some of the plastic that's there. But, you know, these are all technical comments. I think conceptually, you know, the system as proposed is going to work. I just think we got to work out some details. And I mean, the kind of changes that might result to the plan, I think at this point, would be those associated with the temporary condition during construction and not the permanent condition. I think that Rich adequately represents the permanent condition. I'm very comfortable with where we're at. We have a couple of cleanup comments to go to. I'm really right now focused on the temporary condition during construction to make sure that we're not going to have any releases from the site during construction.
I have a question. You are replacing something that is approximately 44 years old. I'm guessing because Condo 2 was completed in 1977. I'm assuming that particular stream bed, it is a stream bed, a perennial stream bed, was probably being dealt with a little prior to that, possibly. Am I right about a 44-year-old?
I am not certain when
It's got to be at
exactly
least
was
that
built.
old, let's put it that way,
Yeah,
right?
okay. And just a little history, I know you say you're only going to be there for, what, 10 days, 2 weeks?
Mhm.
But just so you know the history of the spot, that happens to be an area and a stream that fed into annual flooding that took place at the foot of Warren Street. That's where Brown Brook goes, and that stream fed into, and that flooded heavily every year. It doesn't anymore, thanks to Heritage Hills and other things that have been done.
And our highway department, we're gonna give them some credit. They did some work at the bottom of Warren Street to help that situation too. I remember it very clearly because I had to drive through it many times, so.
One of,
That's right, you live
I
in
live on
Mahopac.
Warren Street,
Yeah,
yeah.
right. So, I have another question, and that is.
can I just answer that one?
I
I
the
didn't
other,
think there was a question there, so.
I haven't gotten to my question. My question is, he's talking about riprap. And it is a perennial stream, so we wouldn't be talking about dissipators and things like that, right?
So if you think about you use dissipators where there's velocity, right, to minimize erosion velocity. So the Stilling Basin, for example, that we're putting the bypass well into, that is really dissipating energy from the stuff coming off the road, right? So it's going to flow through the swell, it's going to sit in that basin, and then I believe it's going to overflow that basin in, right? So that water is not rushing down the hill. So that's one aspect to eliminate outside of the channel to minimize erosion from velocity and stormwater. Now, in the channel itself, you got to remember the water comes over that weir, right? And when it comes over that weir, there's probably splashing, and I would imagine that creates some velocity. That action itself is going to dissipate some energy in and of itself just by coming over. But once it's in the stream, that riprap is going to help slow the water down. It's not a formal energy dissipator that you would put in the stream itself, because frankly, the velocity of the water is not moving that quickly at that point. It's just coming over the weir, right?
Okay.
So the riprap is there to make sure that as storm flows increase, and as the depth of flow over that weir increases, and as we start getting more flow, that is going to start, the more volume we have, the more velocity we'll have, right?
Okay.
Those ripraps are sized to make sure that they're not going to roll during that condition, right? So they're gonna armor that side slope to make sure that when that water is flowing at those higher velocities, that that those rocks are going to stay in place.
They don't wash away.
And that they're not going to wash away, and that they're going to protect the slopes. That's a calculation of velocity, size, slope, and they've done all those calculations. And they've actually provided a thicker bed of riprap than would normally be required. I think for their size, for the size stone we're looking at, it would be 18 inches, and I think we're at 24 inches in terms of the thickness of the riprap. So they are putting a nice healthy layer of 12-inch stone to armor that riprap. And of course, I'll just add one other thing is when we say 12-inch stone, it sounds like we get a truckload of 12-inch stone. That's not really how it works. That's an average diameter, so there'll be bigger stones and smaller stones, which allows them to build those in a way that they really key in together.
They knit better that way too.
Yeah, they come together, in a tighter knit. Than it would be like, having a bunch of marbles, which you can never get tight, versus having a different size, particles that you can fill, get tighter. So you've got at that location where we're doing the work, sufficient armoring to protect around the velocities. I've asked for us to add some more around some of the footings instead of just on the outside term where the velocities will be the maximum. Let's make sure we get them on the inside of the term, because you never know. You get some back eddies. So let's just protect the footings while we're in there, and they've agreed to do that. And, so I'm comfortable with the level of erosion control. The only other area that we've looked at, and we'll go on, this is for the temporary condition, is trying to get a sense for how much water we actually think we're going to have to pump out of the sump and into the dirt bag to determine whether it is overkill or not to armor that side slope. Because if we're putting a lot of water in there, I wouldn't want water, the water coming off of that bag flowing down that steep slope, creating some rills, although it would have to be a fair amount of water to make that happen. So those are one of the operational items, the temporary condition items we have to go through. But as far as erosion goes, that's how I would address the energy dissipation.
Well, very interesting.
One point I would like to
Did I
make.
miss anything, Rich?
Just on the temporary condition,
Yes.
we're absolutely going to look at the sizing calculations with Joe, and we want to make sure we're at a safe point as well. One of the luxuries of this project is we're not actually disturbing the stream bed.
Yes.
And the luxury in that is if a storm event is coming, we can pull the cofferdam back out of the work zone, let the storm come through, and it's not going to impact us.
Oh, that's neat.
So that was one of the reasons why we were talking to Joe about what's really the right storm to look at. And
Right.
We'll come to a
And
good
that
place.
would be okay as long as we don't have the side slopes open or other areas
Right.
that would prevent us from doing that. So we might have to come up with a process or a procedure, the decision-making tool in the field or something like that, but we obviously want to streamline this process for Heritage Hills so that we can get this thing constructed.
Yeah, my questions basically are just, I just think it's fascinating. I didn't mean it as a challenge.
Oh,
Yeah.
whenever you ask a question, I get on my toes, I know that.
How far below grade is the stream bed to the road? What's the height?
You are,
If I was standing on the road looking down,
10 feet or
let me give you
so?
the right answer. It's
10 or 12 feet, something like that?
89 to 504, almost 15 feet, 14 feet.
15 feet. Will this project require any shoring in that area that you'll be working in to prevent side collapse or anything like that? Or 15 feet below grade?
Well, they're working on a side slope, so I do not believe so, but
No,
Richard
so
can answer that question.
at where it was kind of a loaded question in that in the center of the road we're 15 feet. At the edge of the road we're 15 feet, but then the slope comes down.
I gotcha.
Where we're working, it's only a couple of feet.
Okay.
So there won't be shoring.
You don't need to shore it then?
Right.
I got you. All right, well, that's a clearer picture now. Thank you.
Well, and just so you know, to help make some of that stuff clear, we did ask for maybe we should do a longitudinal cross-section through here that shows, you know, here's the stream bed, here's the cofferdam, here's the bottom of the stream bed, here's the culvert, here's the road, just everything in relation to one another to help you know, define some of those kind of elements and make them clear on the plan.
Thank you.
Any other board member comments? So if I'm understanding you correctly, you're fine with the plan as presented, and the actual implementation you can work out in the resolution?
Yeah,
the
I
timing.
think I think the board, obviously I'm open to hear any additional input that the board might have on the construction condition, right? The temporary condition. I see right now the issues we need to work out are on the temporary condition. So if you have any comments on those, we should talk about those.
I haven't, I'd like to look at a critical path method, you know, per chart of how this thing is gonna go. But if, in fact, there is a storm coming, can we get some comfort that they'll move up or put extra resources to get it done before the storm? I don't want a contract where, you know, they'll get to it when they get to it.
Yeah,
Do we-
I think that,
My experience in Heritage Hills is that's not how this is going to go. I don't think they want their roads, their network, anything disrupted for any longer than they have to. They have a regular set of contractors they work with that they trust. We're not going out to public bid, just
But-
bringing anyone in.
The hurricane's coming up and it's gonna be here in 3 days, so they're gonna put the resources to it for the next 2 days to get it done.
I would
That's my
imagine
question.
so. I mean, nobody wants a problem.
Right.
Damage from hurricanes and things cost more money than just spending the upfront investment.
And they can reroute
So
the
what I would
stream
say,
back
you know-
through the existing pipe too, though.
right,
Yeah.
correct. So, you know, Dennis, I guess I would, I don't disagree with anything that Rich said. I understand how Heritage Hills is a very well-run operation, and I know that they know how to start, stop, and manage contractors. We've seen that very well. But unfortunately, I always have to think about what if those things don't happen, right? So we will be approaching these temporary conditions as if to make sure that we understand. I don't think we can ever write into a resolution, for example, that says if a hurricane's coming, you have to finish sooner, right? I think what we have to do is to make
I
sure
want
that
the
there are.
comfort that
Right. So I think we can get a commitment from the applicant that they're going to do their best. But as far as what I have to do in the resolution, I really have to
Yeah, no,
almost
no,
assume the
no.
worst,
I want
really.
the comfort, not necessarily the
Right.
language.
Procedures can be put into place on the plans that the town can enforce. My other experience is when events like that happen, your engineering department starts reaching out to open construction sites. We actually reach out to our clients. It's, you know, when storm events happen, nobody really just sits and
I mean,
waits.
I think that our bigger challenge here, in all honesty, is not going to be the hurricane because we're going to see the thing marching up the coast. It's going to be the
Micro.
April storm, the August storm where we get an inch of rain in 20 minutes. That'll be the more likely scenario here that we'll have to make sure that we're addressing, I think. You know, because frankly, even if a hurricane did come and there were problems as a result of it, which nobody wants. It is a force majeure kind of issue too, that, you know, their contractor that they're working with may have 3 other sites that they have to, I mean, there's a resource limitation that I appreciate the commitment, and we'll be developing the procedures to try to pin that down as best we can. But it's hard for us to mandate that, really.
And let's not forget that, and correct me if I'm wrong, you guys did an analysis of the functionality of this culvert. It's been working. This
Oh, yeah.
repair is not because it's not working, it's because it's degrading.
Well, and like Rich
falling
said,
apart.
really one of the things that is extremely beneficial towards big storm events, right? And the overall function is that this culvert is not, it doesn't have a bottom. It's an open bottom culvert. It's a natural bottom. It's almost like the stream was there and you just kind of drop the arch over the top of it. So we have that natural protection that's been there for, who knows, at least 44 years, if not longer, that's been protecting that stream bed. So that is a nice, you know, kind of ace that we have in the hole. And the only thing that would prevent us from removing the cofferdams, as Rich said, was maybe there's other areas that are opened up that we'd have to be concerned that if we open up the cofferdams, that there would be erosion coming from those exposed areas that might make things worse, right? So those are that would be the issue that we'll be looking at during that construction condition, is what flows do we need to pass, and what's the procedure to make sure that we don't, you know, send any sediment down gradient.
Just a point of information. Because there was concern about this mystical storm that may appear. The contractor who's going to be doing this work, I believe, is going to be doing the work. However, Heritage Hills has landscape contractors on their site all day long. So if excess workers needed to remove the sandbags, that could be done within a 10-minute period. It's not like they'd have to call some outside contractor. So there is that secondary service that's available. Just to
Thank
try
you for
to-
putting that up, Bruce. That's
Yeah.
my
Yeah,
understanding
I
as
don't
well.
care where the resources come from, as long as they're
Right.
put to it.
You're right.
Well, they're there.
There you go.
Any other board
We all
member
remember
comments?
IBM.
Yeah. Everybody got a chance to read Surette's comments about a couple of the boards that have not met, and so they haven't seen we haven't seen anything from them, et cetera. How does the board feel about making this chairman's signature? Only so the applicant wouldn't have to return for the July 10th meeting.
I'm fine with moving in the direction prior to July.
I have no problem with that.
We'll have this resolution. I think we can get together with Rich in the next week or two,
Okay.
you know, work out the details, get the resolution drafted, and get it off to chairman for signature before the July 10th meeting,
All right.
especially because I go on vacation July 9th, so.
Before we go there, I need to open the public hearing. Is there anyone here that would like to speak on this matter? Okay, make a motion, we close the public hearing.
So
Second.
moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Then I guess we can direct staff to prepare a resolution.
I think it's an approval of the project for chairman's signature,
Okay,
right? Because the referral of the resolution would then require us, I think, to come back with the
Okay.
resolution. So I think it has to be an approval and for chairman's, you know, of a resolution for chairman's signature.
all right, then make a motion that we approve the approval of this project for my signature.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next on our agenda, some project reviews. The first one is for the town center at Somers. It's the extension of the sewer district. We have a draft resolution to review and possibly
Think
approve.
about all the 12 people that go before me.
Go ahead. We're just reviewing it tonight.
Right.
Maybe. Yeah,
Yeah, I made,
I said it may be approved.
Yeah, that's
I made a
okay.
note. I made a note.
Go ahead.
Good
Yes,
evening,
good
Jody
evening.
Cross. We just, we went through the draft resolution, and I apologize that there were 3 other comments that we had on the draft resolution that I just wanted to point out. And the first is based on an email that we sent out, and we, I think we gave the board a long time to mull over. I sent the email at 6 o'clock this evening. We received from Council for the Heritage Hills Sewer Works a comment, response to the comment that's on page 8 of the redlined version of the resolution. So I'm not sure if you have a redline version or a clean version.
Yeah, everybody's got it redlined.
Okay, so it's on page 8, it's comment 2, which relates to it states, "The applicant shall provide documentation that the consent order issued by the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation for Speedy's violations that the consent order issued by the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation for Speedy's violation to Heritage Hills Water Treatment Plant has been resolved." So there's a letter dated May 17th, 2019, which states that the O&M plan has been found acceptable and is approved, that a engineering report satisfies the order, and that the current monitoring data indicates that the plant is meeting permit limits. So I believe this letter indicates that they are in compliance with the consent order.
Was that Roland's comment? I thought Roland's comment was that you had that the consent order was completed, that you had resolved the.
Well,
I
it's
just
not
wanted
us.
to-
I mean, I do note that
Right,
Erstadt Biddle is not a party to this consent order.
Right.
So generally speaking, we have no control over a consent order between other parties, and we can't control whether or not they are in compliance. And we have been provided this letter, which we are told demonstrates that they are in compliance and that this fulfills the consent order.
All right, so. let me
What was
just
that
see.
last, what was that?
Yeah, I'm reading Roland's email now.
Right, that was just what I was just pulling up.
And the way I interpret that is, it is a condition of approval for your project that we are confirmed that we can hook up to it, right?
Correct.
That's how I'm understanding this.
Correct.
And you're saying that you have that approval in your hand.
Correct. That's what we're told, that this letter indicates that Heritage Hills Sewer Works has fulfilled the consent order with the DEC.
So who,
I have a
Well,
problem.
this says that the order is satisfied. I don't,
We don't,
That's my issue with this condition, is that Erstadt Biddle can't speak to an order that they're not a party to. So this is the best we can do, is represent, we were told that this is evidence, and that's the best we can do as a non-party to this order.
our attorney is reading it.
I don't get
So
that.
this says, Jody, submission of the report satisfies requirement.
Well, it says that there, again, as a non-party to the consent order, it was represented to me that the consent order has been fulfilled. So either someone needs to speak to the DEC or Heritage Hills. As a non-party to that order, I could only relay what has been told to me. That was my issue with this condition. I have no problem having a condition in our resolution saying that we cannot connect until the DEC says we can. But having a condition saying that we need to represent that their condition's fulfilled, I'm not sure how else we can comply with that.
Well, I don't know that you have to represent that it's been fulfilled, but I think what we're saying is it has to be fulfilled in order for you to get.
But the intent here is exactly what you stated, Rich. We don't want you thinking you can connect, or you keep thinking you can connect, or trying to connect until the DEC says it's okay.
And that's fine, and we don't want to connect until it's okay.
But, Jody, just keep in mind where we're coming from the town on this is, we were kind of silent on the last one because it was private to private, and we wound up with a building that was built and sat there for 4 months because the private to private weren't talking. So now we're trying to put a little more controls in place to make sure that it's crystal clear what needs to happen and what we're gonna ask for. Now, I would have no problem, as Joe would have no problem, saying, changing the resolution that says that they have to provide us with a letter from the DEC that says they can connect.
Right, because that's really what we're concerned about. And
Yeah.
this may say, it's an inartfully written letter.
Yes.
And yeah, it looks like what they're saying is, right, that it is consistent with the consent order they're under and made a part of it. That this plan is going to be part of the consent order.
Consent order has a list of things. You shall jump through this hoop, you shall jump through that.
Understood, and it's asking us to interpret someone else's consent order, and if you're asking me to interpret it, I'd say, oh, well, it is fulfilling it. But it's,
Converted that condition to say they can't connect until they provide a letter to the town that says they can from the DEC.
Right.
Not from Heritage Hills, from the DEC.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Let's rework
Yeah.
the language.
Sure.
Yes, I'm fine with what you
Yes,
said.
yes.
So let's rework.
I'm fed up with private businesses suffering because the state doesn't know how to write a form.
To the Heritage Hills wastewater treatment plant until the applicant shall not connect to the Heritage Hills wastewater treatment plant until
Well, why don't we do this? Wait, why don't we do this? Why don't we say the applicant shall provide documentation from the DEC.
No. Not just yet.
Documentation from the New York State DEC indicating
Stating,
or stating,
not indicating, stating.
Thank you. Stating that
We can connect.
UBP can connect the Somers Town Center to the Heritage Hills wastewater treatment plant.
And they did send a letter saying we could not until the consent order was fulfilled, so it's
Right.
only fair to ask them to now say we can.
Correct.
Right. Right, I think that they sent a letter in response to the lead agency circulation, I believe,
Right.
correct? I'm more comfortable with that, rather than relying on what's going on between third parties.
Because
We agree conceptually, it was just
consent
more
order
the
can
ways.
still be active and you can still connect. Correct.
Exactly,
Right? So
exactly.
to say you have to satisfy the consent order before, that's not really great language either. Because
Right.
satisfying the consent order means all the fines are paid and the thing is put a nice button on it, put in the folder, and put in the drawer, and nobody to
Yeah, what
touch.
does resolved mean versus, as long as we could connect, I don't care what's going on with them.
Exactly. And that, frankly, or as long as the DEC says you can connect, we're okay with you connecting.
Great. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
And then the last two comments are on page 10. Under the be it further resolved paragraph, there's a holdover from our 2017 site plan resolution speaking to the demolition of the awning and tower. That's just a holdover.
What line are we on?
Under the be it further resolved,
Yeah. Back
the bottom of that paragraph, it says which demolition may include removal of the awning and tower.
Wait a minute.
No construction or site work is authorized.
What page?
10 of
10 of
11?
11. It's right under the be it further
So
resolved.
are you saying we should delete the whole starting no construction?
Is it that whole no construction language? Yeah, because that was
Yeah, because
everything from no construction on, I think, right?
Yeah, that,
Yes.
I do remember that from the.
Yeah, that was,
Okay.
yeah.
And where's that date that you want to change?
And the next paragraph says that our approvals would expire today.
Expiration, right,
So that should be 2020.
2020. Okay.
That's all.
just one. There's been some back and forth with the Fire Protection Bureau related to location of the propane tanks above ground, their relationship to the emergency generator, and both to the property line. And we got word from the Bill Penrusso that they were satisfied with the revised plan. The only thing that I'm not sure that I saw an earlier small version. What is the status of that plan showing that?
I can get that to you guys as early as probably, I could get it to you guys by the end of the week. I
Okay,
can get you a revised plan, the same plan. I can get it to you electronically first thing in the morning. I can get you a hard copy probably by Friday.
all right, so that would be that revised version would be part of the final
Got
site
it.
plan.
Yeah, now,
Okay.
if I may, sir, in speaking, in response to Joe's comment memo, it appears that there was an additional requirement for some additional screening, so we'll have that depicted on that plan as well.
Yeah, and that's the only, I think that the board should just take a look at the screening to make sure you're comfortable with it, right? I mean, we had a couple of thoughts on some items, and, you know, we're gonna be having tanks and generators, and I wouldn't want the board to be surprised in the way that looks like, so I think taking a look at the landscaping and screening might be something worthwhile for the board to do this evening, so that when
Okay.
this plan gets finalized, you can actually, we can get it to the finish line in one shot. So I don't know if you want to review that to the board.
Sure, well,
Might want to just spin it a little bit if you would, please.
sorry, for those of you guys that don't know me, my name is Rich Cordone with JMC. I work with Rob and Jody, with the attorney. We're here for UBP. Basically, what we had done is we shifted the location to comply with the fire code of the propane tanks and the generators. The propane tank had to be shifted to provide 10-foot clearance from the property line, as well as 10 feet off from the generator. So we shifted this a little bit, and we shifted this guy over here a little bit. Some of the comments, they're not depicted right here on this drawing. That shift, I can get, like I said, I'll get those to you guys as soon as I can. But what we will do is, Joe's comment was to provide some additional screening for the generators. And we can, right now we have 4 American Hollies over here that are basically screening the generators and the propane tanks from this direction. What we can do is we can add additional, at the discretion of the board, additional screening for this, what is this, the southerly generators.
Are those hollies by any chance inside a fence? Because they're not going to survive a winter with the deer.
My landscape architect did not bring that up to me.
Wait a minute. The deer are gonna eat the holly
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they love it.
and just put in green giant arborvitae?
Would the
They're
board
going to
be-
eat. They're going to eat those too.
No, they don't.
Oh,
They
the green
are-
giant may be I know you drive around and see most arborvitae.
Yeah, the
bottom
green,
4 feet are eaten.
Right.
No,
The
but those are not green giants.
the green giants are not, are one of the deer resistant
Right,
versions of the
yeah.
arborvitaes. If the board would be amicable to that, we'd be happy to replace the American hollies to provide screening with the arborvitaes,
So one
the
of the
green
things on
giant.
this, so this is interesting, this is one of the things I wanted the board to look at, right? So you heard the comments where the screening is really to screen the generators from off-site properties looking in. But if you're driving around
Right.
that road, you're gonna look right at it, and I think the board should know, should opine on, is that okay? Or would you like to see screening for views from inside the site as well? Because right now, the screening is for outside the
Correct.
site, looking into the site. So in other words, from the church, looking over, the generators will be screened. But when you're going in the back door of Burke, you're gonna be able to see them.
Well-
Or when you're coming, or let's just say when you're coming around that turn, you're gonna be able to see them. The board just should say that maybe you don't care.
How
eyes
big
should
are
be
these
on the road,
propane
not
tanks
on-
are we talking?
Your eyes should be on the road. not on
Capacity.
the scenes.
It's, the propane tanks are 500 gallon. They're 3-foot diameter by about 6 feet long. The generators, they're about 3 feet by 5 feet.
Is any consideration to putting the tanks subterranean?
We're in a groundwater overlay district.
No,
It was
no,
kind
not
of frowned
yet.
upon. You know,
Even propane, you wouldn't be able to put?
That's
that?
correct.
Well, we've,
No,
we
we've
they
been
would
through
require
this.
a waiver,
Yeah.
I mean, we've done it in other areas of the.
It's less than desirable.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
I'm
less
I'm
than-
asking because those that aren't familiar with the regulations up there might say, why not just bury it? And then now you're only looking at a small generator that's gonna be visible because the tanks are underground.
Understood. The generators are relatively small. They're about 2.5 feet high, 3 feet by 5 feet. They're depicted larger on here because if I depicted them honestly, the actual size, you'd lose them on the plans.
I think the question is the screening is fine, and which will change the type of screening, so, you know, be more deer resistant. I think the question is as you're driving down the road, when this is built, and you're driving down that road, and before you make that left-hand turn ahead to the Chico's to go get your lunch, are you gonna be okay seeing seeing those, the generator and the tankage there?
Well, what about just bringing a screen all the way around it?
Well, right, I was even thinking, if you were gonna do anything, I don't think you would need to bring it all the way around, because you would need to still provide access.
Right.
Yeah, you
But you
still
might
have
be
to have
able
access.
to, you know,
Soften it.
well, on this side of it, I don't know what direction. that-
Right over here,
Yeah,
Joe?
just on that side, so that the
Okay.
view shed, as you're driving down that
Okay.
alley, you can't see, you're gonna have to provide it open on the other side, so you can get in for access.
Yes.
But maybe on that one side, on the traveled way, just, you know,
Okay.
that would be what I would suggest, is to,
Yeah.
almost like a J. You're not gonna put an O around
Right.
it, you're gonna J it, basically, a backwards J.
I don't foresee that as a problem with the applicant. I'll go over that with them.
I already asked
Yeah.
if they would add additional screening.
And
Okay.
the other one down below,
Yes.
you know, I didn't think there was any screening there, and I just asked for some screening there for the one time every 2 months I come out of the gym, this way I don't have
Okay.
to, you know, see the, no, but that is gonna be pretty visible down there. So-
Okay, that's understood. We can do that. We can do that. I can add the additional screening around this to make sure that it's blocked off. Our initial thoughts were that it was more of a back of the house location and it wasn't a primary concern. However, you know,
There's a lot of businesses that, you know,
Yeah.
that's pretty active. back
understood.
there.
So we're gonna we'll add the screening as required.
Aren't those gonna be in view of the new Boniello units? Am I understanding this
No,
correctly?
they
Yeah,
moved
we
them.
had it moved
They removed them.
to a
Yeah.
different location, further away. They were initially placed, but I forget the number, the unit
They were
numbers,
right
21 or
outside.
something.
Mr. Boniello's units are
Right.
over here.
Yeah.
This is more of a wetland area right over here. There's no buildings proposed here,
No, there's not.
so it's gonna be.
But we
out
should
of-
look at, I mean, if there's a line of sight, that one tree can help, we
Yeah.
should
Right.
be looking. at
Now,
it.
I understand there's a.
Especially
sig-
to sell those units.
There is a pretty, you know, there is
Yeah.
some slope there that's gonna work there.
We have some, also there's some screening that's provided around the cell tower that's there, that's gonna block us from this direction.
And did we find out how often the automatic running?
They're gonna,
Once a week.
I did not. I did not.
That was a question at our last meeting.
What was your question, Nancy?
The automatic
The
running.
exercising.
Where I live, it's once a week for 7 minutes.
And that's pretty much a generator standard. Someone deals
Well,
with that.
someone said monthly, that's why I raised the question. I never heard of it
It's,
running
it's,
monthly.
it's recommended every 7 days it runs for about 10 minutes. There's different types of cycles you can program it to do,
I've been timing them, 7
but
minutes,
yeah,
150 of them.
I'm not gonna forget that now.
yeah. Everything will be on concrete pads?
Yeah, the generators will be on a concrete pad as well as the
The tanks.
propane tanks.
Any other board member comments or questions?
Not on that, but I had another question on the one of the whereases.
Okay.
Page 2.
I'm sorry,
I have a question on one of the whereases.
Page 2.
On page 2, it's,
Yep.
it's
Which one?
just normally when we list correspondence, we list it by date. And the
which-
second whereas, it doesn't list the dates.
I'm sorry. Where are we, Nancy?
On page 2.
I understand, but
Second whereas, it says the town received a copy of a letter from Westchester County Planning Board and the New York City DEP. Well, I found my letter from the New York City DEP, and that letter is dated March 5th. I don't have a copy of the Westchester County Planning Board. I don't know. when
Would you
that-
like me to put the dates in?
Yeah,
I'd
I
be happy
think
to put
that
the dates in.
normally happens.
We will add the dates.
Yeah, but I'd also like to make another comment. We received that nice letter that you gave us a copy of, and I couldn't miss this. The letter you gave us,
From,
New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, on its letterhead, dated to Mark Broussard, is dated May 17th, with the obvious contents we've already discussed. I just happened to put my hands on a letter on the same letterhead dated March 19th, acknowledging that the town board is the lead agency. Nowhere's in there do they mention the consent order. Isn't that interesting? I just thought that was intellectually interesting.
Those are different departments.
Yeah, I'm sure.
They're right down the hall from each other, but they're different departments.
I think that explains why it took 2 years for us to find out there were problems.
One hand doesn't talk to the other.
The right hand is up.
Yeah. Any more comments? We still have to approve the groundwater overlay district, don't we?
right, that's the first thing you have to
Yep.
do.
Okay.
All right, if the board's okay with it, I'll make a motion that we approve the groundwater protection overlay district special exception use permit pursuant to section 170-32HC, which was based on the recommendation from the Bureau of Fire Department to move the propane tanks.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is everybody satisfied with the resolution with the changes?
Yes.
Applicant?
Yes.
Joe? Surratt? All
Yes.
right. Then I make a motion that we approve Resolution 2019-07 as amended, which is, well, I might as well do it for the record. It's a grant of conditional site plan approval for the extension of the Heritage Hills Special Sewer District to incorporate the town center at the Somers Shopping Center, the erosion and sediment control permit, a wetland and watercourse protection permit, and a groundwater protection overlay district special exception use permit to Erstat Biddles for the extension of the Heritage Hills Special Sewer District to incorporate the town center at Somers Shopping Center. The town tax number is section 17.15, block 1, lot 13.
I would just add one thing. You're approving the resolution as amended.
I said as amended, yeah.
And the site plan as amended.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
Given,
yes, correct.
given
Go ahead.
the landscaping and
Yes.
the location of the generators and the above
Planting.
ground tanks
And the plantings.
and the plantings.
Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Next, our agenda is a project review for the 63 Route 6 Coral Seafood Restaurant.
Hi, my name is Kevin Descharnay, and I'm the owner's agent and the applicant agent for this project. My engineer could not be here tonight, but I'm very familiar with the project, so if there's any questions on the engineering side, hopefully I can answer them. So basically, I'll just walk you through the project. So basically, we came here and voted. So basically, we came here 2 months ago and you voted to be lead agency for this project. We're seeking approval for the site plan. There is an existing parking lot that we would like to enlarge. Also, there is a building bump out that we need to get permission for, and also a side terrace. and one small additional parking spot down here. One of the things that came up was we had the wetland restaked, and the buffer is actually here. The previous maps showed it back here. So taking that into account, we reduced the parking lot size to the extent that we could, and we're actually willing to give back this area here that's currently paved. So basically, that's the overview of the site plan. And we've been working with Joe's office we've had 2 meetings down there to go through treatment of the stormwater for this entire parking lot, not just the new area that we are creating. And we would put that treatment outside the buffer in this area here. We have submitted all the drawings both to Joe's office and the town, where we are proposing to put that, and we're on our second round of responses on comments and questions from the engineer. And I think the last round should be answered this following week. We just have to get a machine out there and do some deep tests to prove the separation with rock and groundwater, and verify the design.
Joe or Surratt, you want to comment?
So, yeah, we're still working through the engineering. There are still a fair amount of comments. You addressed some of them. I've got a really interesting question for you about your interactions with the DEP. Now, once you start putting the infiltrators in, you're going to increase your disturbance.
Well, that was in our calculation of disturbance.
So that area is your limit of your limit of disturbance is less than an acre, right?
Yeah.
Which would mean that from our consideration, as far as a stormwater pollution prevention plan goes, right, we really only need soil erosion and sediment control. That's it. The reason why we're doing the infiltrators is really for the wetland buffer impact mitigation, right? So we're installing the infiltrators to deal with the runoff from the parking lot as a mitigation measure for the impact inside of the wetland buffer, okay?
Right.
However, the New York State City DEP has indicated that they want to get their eyes on, that they have jurisdiction because this is a Main Street area and they're adding impervious surfaces, okay?
New York City?
New York City,
Because it's a what area?
a Main Street area.
Oh.
And they're adding some impervious. So my question really is, have you had conversations with right now the SWIP includes all of those infiltrators. So expect comments on those from the DEP, right? But remember, they're not there to satisfy DEP's regulations. They're there to satisfy town wetland mitigation. So I'm just curious if you've had this conversation at all amongst your team or with the DEP.
I know.
Because I think by putting it in, you might be opening a can of worms, but they also may have been pressuring you to hand them that can of worms. I'm not sure.
Honestly, Jack, my engineer, has been handling that part of it, and he was away this week. But I know that he has an application in with them for this project with the drawings. So I just don't know the results of that application.
All right. Because in the end, I think you probably could have just provided them the soil erosion sediment control work, and then the infiltrators are there for our mitigation. Although they may push you in that direction anyway because of the addition of the impervious surfaces. And I just didn't know if Jack has had that conversation.
Which is what Jack assumed.
Okay, all right. So I was just curious if you had that, because it's really an interesting kind of regulatory matrix here, you know, that we're talking about. But other than that, I mean, we've got some comments that we're working with on the stormwater. We had that one other issue, and those are and a maintenance agreement is really where we're at. We're getting pretty close. The testing will get us almost all the way there.
Surratt?
Yeah, I had identified a number of items that have largely been, put now and distinguished on the new site plans. So I'll be looking over them, but I think we're pretty close to what I needed.
Good.
I think we're really just down to the stormwater at this point. It's just making sure that they test out, prove out what they're proposing, and we should be good to go next meeting.
Board member comments?
so we're ready.
Do you think, we're close enough to schedule a public hearing?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, good.
Well, before I do that, is there any other board member comments, so first, or questions?
No.
No? Okay,
Get it
then,
out of our system.
our next meeting is,
Will the perk test be done before that? Perk
The
test?
field testing is going on next week, right?
Yes, next week.
Okay. That
And
answers
we
my
should
question.
have all your comments back to you, I'm hoping by the end of next week,
Excellent.
so.
All right, July 10th is the,
yeah, well, I'm just looking, Barbara, do you know the date of our next meeting offhand? July
July
10th?
July 10th.
To make a motion, we schedule a public hearing for July 10th. It's good for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything you want him to have done by then, Joe or Surratt? I guess
Well,
just
I
work,
think
just
that-
chip away on the items.
Well, by the time we get to the public hearing, I think the drawings need to be upgraded to show the location of the infiltrators and.
Well, they haven't. You have, your office has those.
We have them, but I'm
Yeah,
saying
yeah.
the one that is coming into the town, that needs to be proven out, might have to get bigger, whatever. We
Okay.
just need to make sure
Yep.
that
Alright.
all the information is available to the public.
Okay.
And we would never, just so you know, we would never be able to close the public hearing until after we're fully satisfied with the SWIP, which in this
Okay.
instance would require the testing, so I think it's really important
Okay.
that we get that moved along.
Okay. Any other comments before we send you home tonight? Do you have any questions?
No, not really. I mean, just the one thing which I think you've noticed is that we did provide an extra row of screening between this parking space, because there is a building here.
Right.
So, you know, we took that into account, and, you know, and then just all the engineering comments we've been working through, so.
Okay. We'll see you on the 10th then.
All right.
Thank you very much.
that came from, I got somebody who knows how to deal with this.
Next on our agenda is North County Homes.
Groups of people coming to my office over the next 2 years on this project. Actually.
Do you have anything you want to say, Joe?
Two questions.
Okay.
In general. He brought up, he's never brought them up before.
Joe or Surratt, do you have anything you want to comment on North County?
Well, so that's just sharing something that's
Okay.
coming out of the engineering department.
Sure.
Whether or not we should be doing things like, it needs highway work permit, and, okay, that, they have to tie in the Shamrock Water District and pay appropriate fees. Should we be adding things like that? Steve said he takes
Highway
care
work.
of this anyway, but we've never done these before as part of conditions. Steve just brought them
If
up.
Steve wants them on there, we'll put them on there.
They said it
Yeah.
was less
I
than
mean,
an
he was,
acre.
yeah.
I'm confused
What do you
about
want? Just-
why,
let's just get-
why was
I-
the DEC
Okay.
involved in this
All right.
at all?
Ask Joe.
Because isn't aren't they first involved? It has to be over 2 acres.
I
of
thought
land?
so, yeah.
Is that
All right, let me just, I prepared a draft resolution because I was satisfied. I want to make sure
Joe is?
that
Okay.
Joe is satisfied. But one thing that came up that I'd like to add, the engineering, Steve Wolfel from the engineering department brought up 2 things that he would like added as conditions, and I think we can just,
We're working off draft 2?
we're working on draft number 2. So if we go to the end, and he wanted to add that, that the applicant will obtain a Somers Highway Department work permit, and that the applicant is required to tie into the Amawak-Shenorock Water District and pay the appropriate fees. so.
Okay? Is Joe looking up something? Is that right?
I'm not sure. Let's
Huh.
just, I think he's okay with this, but let's just.
Okay.
They're good.
We've been good for.
Okay. No, I thought you were looking up something. Okay.
No, I had to talk to Rich about that.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to add those two
God bless.
conditions. So the resolution as amended
Okay.
is what we're doing.
First, any more, any board member comments?
Move it.
Okay. All right, then I'll make a motion for Resolution 2019-08 as amended with those conditions that Saret just set forth. It's granting of conditional final subdivision approval and stormwater management and erosion sediment control permit. Steep slopes permit, tree removal permit. It's for North County Homes Cardinal Way for the North County Homes Inc. subdivision, tax number, section 16.17, block 2, lots 7 and 4.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Keep the disturbance under an acre.
Yeah. Before we go to the next, Joe, Bruce had a question.
The gentleman just mentioned that the site for the Coral Seafood was under an acre of land. Okay? My question was, how and why did the DEC become involved in this at all?
The DEP, you mean?
No, you said we mentioned DEC.
I maybe
that
misspoke.
just-
I'm talking about the DEP storm, because their regulations.
No, I understand why the DEP, I'm sorry, I may have misinterpreted. I thought you said DEC.
No, I'm a DEP. If I did say, I'm sure you're right, and I misspoke. It's the DEP is the agency that.
DEC would have nothing to do with this.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct, because
I'm sorry.
DEC, we would ultimately be their delegated authority anyway, the DEC. The only way that the DEC would be getting involved in this is if there was a disturbance to the wetlands themselves.
Okay, next on our agenda is Hidden Meadow, request to waive site plan approval. I don't know if we have to drag this out. I don't know what the rest of the board, I read through this. This seems like a no-brainer, unless I'm missing something here.
Yeah.
Hidden Meadow.
Insignificant.
That's the exact word I was thinking of.
Insignificant change.
Yeah,
Insignificant
I would just say
change.
that the grading change, I mean, we negotiated an easement, an access easement agreement to our parcel next to them. They were very accommodating. There were things that, hey, we don't want to grade off of our easement onto your property. That's the way the original plan was. We all agreed during that time. We verified that the plans as presented to this board reflect the figures that are in the easement agreement, so they're consistent with the agreements for the town. To me, I think they're, I would support the board waiving the site plan approval.
Okay. Did you see the motion as it was?
Surratt's got a different item that
Oh, okay.
Remember, we're not straight out waiving site plan approval, which you can't do. You
Right.
have to do it under a separate condition that you're provided in the code.
Right.
So,
Did you see the
in
motion
effect,
that we're, you
therefore,
okay with it?
Site plan.
With the screening, et cetera, et cetera? You okay? You saw the motion? Well, why don't I read it, and then you can tell me if there's anything you don't
I
like.
did not
How's-
actually see the motion that you're going
All
to
right, well, here's the motion that would be, whereas the planning board determines that the modifications to the site plan proposed by the Hidden Meadow applicant to change the entire entries of townhouse units 1 through 21 to reduce exterior stairs, resulting in a de minimis increase in impervious surface of just over 600 square feet, to change the grading in the area of the future town road to be treated with seed, and the addition of a row of evergreen screening between Townhouse 1 and the future road are not significant, and their adjustment would not nullify any intent of the town code regulations, and therefore finds that the requirement of an application for amended site plan approval is waived.
So you just need a second.
So I'm looking for a second.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you representing Crown Castle too?
I'm not.
Is there anybody here?
Is there somebody that's,
There was somebody that didn't talk.
I think, this is where, John, we had had a request from David Kenny of, I think it was,
from Schneider?
No, not, yeah, Schneider, whether or not he needed to appear, and I
Oh,
called
yes.
you, and
Yes,
you
yes,
thought
yes.
he did not.
I'm sorry, you're right. And I think you and I agreed that he really didn't need to.
Correct.
Okay. This is a special use permit. It's a renewal, actually, for the existing telecommunications facility of the monopole that's at the Majestic site.
You may remember that one of the approvals prior to this of some of the antennas were on a pole that was not in compliance with renewal.
Right.
And one of your conditions was that they apply to make sure that they that they renewed and were in compliance. That's what this is achieving.
Okay.
You may want to look at this special use permit, at least the way it's written here, because it seems to be going in the wrong direction. It says expiration on December 30th, 2018, up to and including December 29th, 2013.
Which page are we on?
Page
So-
3,
Page 3.
Page 3.
Shouldn't it be 2030?
2023 is what it's supposed to be.
Yes, I was just
So
wondering.
where are we? And
It's under 8, it's on page 3, the last,
he's talking about the planning board action.
oh, on my action sheet.
It's
Yeah,
on
your
the
action
action.
sheet.
Oh, yeah, that's supposed to be 2023, no
Right.
question about that.
Alright.
Yes, Barbara pointed that out to me. Thank you, Barbara. But I think in the resolution,
And
we're
the
good.
resolution is right.
Yeah, I
That's
think
correct,
we're in the
okay.
resolution, we're good.
So I guess we have to do 3 motions. We have to waive the public hearing.
Except I'll make one
Yep.
modification. I obviously did not delete something on page 5 of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines from the top. Run from December 30th, 2018 up to and including December 29th, 2023. And let's delete that April
April
9th,
29th, okay.
2024.
Yep.
So really, it's a question of motion, first you have to,
That this is a
Type
type
2.
2. Yep. I'll make a motion that we've determined this is a type 2 action under section 617-5 C7 of SEQA.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then I make a motion that we waive the public hearing pursuant to 170-129-6F.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And last, I make a motion for Resolution 2019-09 as amended, which is a granting of conditional renewal amended special permit approval to CCATT LLC, which is Crown Castle, for the renewal of existing approved special use permit at 243 Route 100, also known as Majestic, and the town tax number is Section 28.10, Block 1, Lot 8.
so moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, before we go, Joe, there's something I wanted to address with you. You're the captain of the ship, and I'm not blaming you, so it's someone else. We've been getting the Woodard and Curran worksheets, whatever you want to call them, from you, way too late. They're supposed to really be in by Friday at 12 o'clock. We get some on Monday, some on Tuesday. This happens a lot, not just this week. And it's not fair to just us. It's not fair to the applicant.
not fair
And it's
to
also not
anybody.
fair to staff. Barbara's been here sometimes till 10, 11 o'clock at night.
This is the, in all honesty, I knew this week was late for some extenuating circumstances, which I thought was coordinated with Surratt, but I was not aware that this has been routine.
It's been a pattern for some time.
I'll make sure that that
Okay.
is rectified.
Friday noon, so we get it Friday, and the applicant has a couple of days in the beginning of the week before the meeting.
I will make sure that that never happens again.
You're the captain of the ship, so we have to, when things are good, you
Captain
take the blame, and when things
This
aren't.
is what I say, right? My job is to pass on all the praise and to take all the negative. So I'm happy to take the negative, so.
But there's very little negative with your firm, just, and I'm sure it will be rectified. Thank you.
But take it back to the Admiral, it's a fleet. And let somebody above the captain's grade
Yeah.
that's gonna help us out with that.
Our next scheduled meeting, I believe, is July 10th. Is that what you said, Barbara? Motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
All in favor?
Second.
Aye,
Second, sorry. Yeah, you make the motion. Is there a second?
there's a second.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Have a nice night.
You too. Have a good weekend.